Welcome back. I'm Natalie Nidham, your host. Today's guest has one of those stories that makes you realize just how unpredictable innovation can be. Dr. Rowena Gates started out as a high school teacher and ended up co-founding NAD IV, the biotech company that has brought us the NanoVi, a device that literally helps your cells repair themselves faster. We talk about how this technology mimics the body's own repair signals, what it's doing at the level of protein folding and DNA repair, and why it's showing results in everything from athletic recovery to HRV and VO2 max. You can visit anc3corp.com/Nidham. And if you decide to get a NanoVi of your own, by using that link, you can receive a free Pelican carrying case. It's one of those cool big black cases worth $400. Now, this episode is brought to you by Young Goose, their new blue peptide spray, Beam Minerals, and Wizard Scientists, all with special offers just for you. Just check out the show notes below for details. Enjoy the show. Rowena Gates, at long last, welcome to the podcast. It is such a pleasure to have you here today.
I'm so happy we can do this.
Yes, me too. I mean, I think, how long have we known each other? Like, is it 5 years, 6 years? Like years we've been crossing paths at all these conferences.
Right. And we always say, oh, let's figure this out. Let's, do something together. And now we are.
And here we are. And this is amazing. Now, I did not know, we're going to just position you a bit for the audience here, because I didn't realize your background is really very academic and in entrepreneurship.
Yeah.
And so what I want to know, and I'm sure the audience would love to know, is how do you make the leap from an entrepreneurial, advanced academic background, like a PhD, into a world where you are riding this wave of really advanced healing at a cellular level? So help us to build the bridge from one world to the other world.
Okay, so at the very start, I was a high school teacher, and I wanted to move up and teach at the university level. Then I discovered that the good jobs were not in places I wanted to live. And so my dissertation was on a business topic, strategic alliances. And so I started consulting to companies because at that time, which is the very early 90s, everybody was like, what are alliances? This is the new organizational structure. This is cool. And so I was consulting, and then one of my clients hired me, basically brought me in as a co-founder. I guess he didn't want to pay me anymore. So
I'll give you a piece of the action. Come work for me for free.
And so we co-founded a company, but it was 1995, and it was in the e-commerce on the internet. We were explaining to investors what the internet was at that time.
Talk about being ahead of your time. They probably thought you were crazy.
Yeah, it was interesting. And so many people never believed any business would get done on the internet. And so that was back in the day. And I did that company and then another company after that. And I'd sold that one. I'd worked for it for a couple of years, and I was going to take a break. And then my partner, Hans Eng, is German. Not, in spite of his name, he's German. And he was, working in his own company here in the U.S., and his German was way better than his English. Let's just say that. So I said, oh, I'll help you. And that company was working in the health space. And I was like, this is cool. This helps people. And all that e-commerce stuff, I never heard that I'd change someone's life.
Yeah.
And so I'd been helping him for a little while, maybe a year or so. And then he sort of came up with the idea that became NanoVi. And it's like, oh my gosh, the technology is available to build this. And so he and I started what is NanoVi, and just worked on, kind of building it out as its own product with its own FDA approval and, patents and compliance and everything. And so that took a few years.
I would imagine.
And and so we just sort of built it up internally. We didn't go out to venture funding and so on. And so that's where the company came from, essentially. The company's called NAD IV.
Yeah.
So Yeah.
That's fascinating. So what was it that Hans came across that brought you to this technology?
What was already known in cell biology was that reactive oxygen species in the body emit a very specific wavelength that's required by the body for these repair mechanisms. And so it's classic, the human body is almost magical, that it's something that does damage might also do repair. And so that part was known, and they knew what that wavelength was. And it's a little less than 1,300 nanometers, just if anybody cares.
That's
and
okay, yeah.
As a reference, red light's in 600 to 700 nanometers, and then you get up into lasers and then really hardcore lasers, and that all ends at about 1,000 or maybe 1,100 nanometers. And so we're above that in the electromagnetic spectrum. And so it became possible to create that specific wavelength with diodes instead of reactive oxygen species. And so our device doesn't have any reactive oxygen species or anything like that with it. It's just that was the idea behind it, was to create what the body does by emitting the specific wavelength and then using humidity to transfer the altered water droplets that have had the energy state change over to the body, where it could go through the mucous membrane and influence the cellular water.
From a hormetic perspective, like for good adaptation, we need some inflammation. Because reactive oxygen species are first signaling molecules.
Exactly. It's a signaling molecule. So you don't want to shut it right down. And people can do that by overdoing antioxidants, for example. They've shown that athletes don't build muscle if they overdo that antioxidants. But the antioxidant piece is interesting. It interrupts the free radicals so they can't do damage. It neutralizes them. Where NanoVi comes in is it repairs the damage that was missed by the antioxidant defense. And so the two of them together are excellent, because you want to avoid as much damage as you can and then use NanoVi, repair it as fast as you can. Yeah. So it's definitely, the heart of what we do. A major aspect of it is reducing oxidative stress damage. It's just that we're not preventing it, we're repairing it.
It's almost like an adaptogenic tool in that it doesn't completely wipe out the reactive oxygen species. It allows them to exist, but what it doesn't allow is for them to continue.
Well, it doesn't allow the damage to continue. And I have to point out, there is one study that was published in a top journal that shows the NanoVi prevents damage.
Wow.
But it's because of the way it works. If it makes things more stable in the cell, it's less susceptible to damage. And also your antioxidant activities are absolutely, reliant on the protein functions that the NanoVi does influence. So it does become part of the antioxidant defense in that respect.
Yeah, so that's really fast. So you brought up a perfect segue to proteins, right? So one of the hallmarks of aging is misfolded proteins that are folded improper. Like as we age, our proteins don't fold as efficiently. If the protein's not folded into the exact right origami shape, it don't work. Right. Fundamentally.
Right. And how do they get misfolded? It's oxidative damage largely. You can damage them other ways too, but the most of it is oxidative, because as long as we're breathing, we're doing oxidative damage.
So the proper folding of proteins, do you want to talk a little bit about how important it is for cellular health and ultimately for longevity? I mean, what we're talking about here is a tool to extend health span, right? So
absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely.
So
and we've shown that with VO2 max and other aspects of health span. But the proteins. So first of all, people know proteins, thinking about salmon or eggs or something, things you eat. And those are proteins, and you need them, and they contribute to the amino acids that you need in your body. But the body's proteins are different. Most of the food is going to be shredded down into amino acids that get rebuilt into the amino acids in your body. And almost everything in there is proteins. All the tissue, all of this is made up of different proteins. And then you layer on top of that every single function is a protein function. There's nothing that happens, even things like your neurons. The neuron itself is not a protein, but it won't work without all the surrounding protein activity.
Well, the neurotransmitters, enzymes, hormones, all of these things are proteins.
Right. There's so many different aspects of it. And it's this amazing system that just keeps adjusting on the fly. And we kind of call that epigenetics, where things can be altered that are not genetic. But to tie in the importance of proteins, you only have one reason to have DNA, which everybody values their DNA. And the DNA is the blueprint for proteins. So that's how fundamental it is. It's absolutely the whole system. It's the whole shebang for the body functioning.
Hey guys, I've created a free gift to thank you all for being here and for being a listener of this podcast. I've put together a list of my top 5 peptides. So all you have to do to get your copy of that is to go to natnidham.com/top 5. And that's it. Let's get back to the show. Does NanoVi have a positive impact on DNA directly or indirectly?
We only have measured the repair of damaged DNA.
Okay.
And that was interesting because it was double-strand DNA damage, which is the stuff that's really hard to fix. It's why people that have been irradiated during cancer therapies can't get their energy back sometimes. They just, they're not ever kind of feeling good again because this is a very slow repair to that damage. It's hard to repair because one side can't mimic the other side of the DNA strands. So
right. And so then you can't replicate.
Yeah, it takes a lot longer. And so we do have that study on DNA, but we don't have anything that would show DNA performance, for example. I don't know how you study that.
Well, no, but if you're affecting DNA repair if you're affecting the repair of damaged DNA, you're way ahead of the game. Like, your DNA.
Yeah. You want to fix that as fast as possible, and oxidative damage is even getting into the nucleus, and it's a high priority for the body is to fix the DNA. So that's going to be one of the first things it does is try to take care of the DNA. So,
you guys are at every conference. You always have like these beautiful, as a matter of fact, one conference I was at, there was a party at night and you had NanoVis at high tops throughout the party, which was really amazing. Like, it was such a generous thing for you to do. But for people who've never seen a NanoVi machine, like, let's maybe explain to them a little bit what this is, because it's a little bit hard for people to imagine.
Yeah.
What is this thing? What is it doing? And for me, my big interaction with NanoVi originally was when I host these, I co-host these retreats and we do NAD IVs. Now, I'm not a fan of doing NAD IVs constantly. I think that on occasion there's a use case scenario for it, but it's going to be very specific at specific times. But if anybody's done an NAD IV, it's a nauseating experience. Like, let's be real.
Worse than that. More than just that.
Oh my God. It's really, and which tells you that this is a hormetic stressor if done properly. Like, it is a stressor to your body. That big flush of NAD is not without its own consequences that we mitigate. But I found going through the NAD IVs that I was able to push through an IV a whole lot faster when I got there early enough to grab myself one of those NanoVis and get hooked up.
It makes a huge difference. I was running through it in 45 minutes, which is pretty fast,
Okay, yeah. That's double the time that I can do an hour and a half. But
there's some people that will take 3 hours or something, and they're pretty uncomfortable.
And longer.
They don't necessarily feel well that whole time, but it makes a very big difference. It's very noticeable about the nausea and the discomfort. So people know you kind of feel like you have a flu or something where you're a bit achy. And
Yeah.
so those are places that it's used, and it should be if somebody's doing NAD drips, they should have NanoVi right there with it.
So do we have an idea of what NanoVi is doing to help through that discomfort?
That it's really what the body is doing.
Okay.
Okay, because of the way it works, it's we're several steps back from very specific outcomes that we give the body all the credit. And what we're doing is supporting it. And the way the NanoVi device works, I mentioned earlier that you're inhaling humid air.
Mm-hmm.
Those water droplets are changed in a way that's really specific to create this, what's called ordered water in the cells surrounding the proteins. So what it's doing is creating a better environment in the cell. And that supports the proteins folding, and proteins have to fold before they can function.
Yep.
And the NanoVi just gives them that extra support to fold. Then they go off and do everything in the body, which is different for everybody and can be really dramatic or is not necessarily that dramatic. But in this case, it's pretty dramatic because the body's so stressed.
Yeah.
And so it's just amping up most likely the utilization of the NAD, which then the body doesn't feel so overloaded and it tolerates it better.
Yeah.
And we've shown that with total antioxidant activity, which is actually a standard measurement of including glutathione and a few other things. And the NanoVi improves that measure. And again, NanoVi is not an antioxidant, but if your body can produce its own antioxidants better, then it shows up in that total antioxidant activity that they're measuring.
Yeah.
And so it's helping everything work better under the hood, so the NAD people have a better experience and so on.
I really love finding therapies that get to allow the body to do what it does better. And I think that, fundamentally, that's what aging is. We lose capacity to do what we were doing when we were younger more efficiently. And so if we can restore that capacity, you're so far upstream here. Now we can see all of these downstream benefits. And I definitely want to get into some of the research that you've published, because so far still people are like, okay, wait, so they've got humidified air, they're inhaling it, it's got a special wavelength that's restoring that's taking reactive oxygen species and not allowing them to do damage. Okay, fine. But what does that really mean?
I'd love to kind of dial that in a little bit more so we can kind of connect the dots for people.
Let's do it.
But I do have to say that whole aging piece you just mentioned, that is synonymous with a lack of protein functions. So that's where that ties in pretty directly. So let's go back to these water droplets. The device has bubbling water on top that's creating humidity. It's only about 80% humidity. It's not an unnatural level. And what we do is we bombard those droplets with specific wavelengths, including the one that mimics reactive oxygen species. There's 0 reactive oxygen species. We just know which one to use because the body uses that. And then we did really extensive testing in a really sophisticated lab in Italy. There weren't many places you could do this. And we could show that there were other specific wavelengths that had an even more powerful impact on the water droplets.
Okay.
And what the impact is that these wavelengths that we use are absorbed by water. So that's how we knew what to test, because we were looking for parts of the electromagnetic spectrum that water absorbs. And all the other light therapies you see, it goes through the water, right? None of them are absorbed. So we want the ones that are absorbed because by absorption, it changes the energy state of the water droplet. It has to. It's energy. It has to go somewhere. Mm-hmm. And so what it's doing is creating more coherence in that water droplet. So the water molecules are lined up in a different way. They're far more organized and tighter. And that energy goes into the body across the water in the body, but it's like if you drop a pebble in a pond and the waves go out until they hit the edge of the pond. They just keep going till they hit the edge of the pond. Right. So that's kind of what we're doing. It just goes through all the water in the body. And a little fact for people who aren't familiar with this, which is probably almost all of us, 99% of the molecules in your body are water.
Yes.
They're small, and there's a lot of them. And so they connect everything. So that energy can transfer through the water and be everywhere all the time, all at once, or whatever that is.
That's
and
amazing.
So that ripple, that energy state keeps going until it hits a surface. And then when it can't go any farther, things build up and the water molecules get pressed together on that surface. And so you build up a layer of ordered water. It's also called exclusion zone water, Gerald Pollack's work, easy water. But that only forms on surfaces too. You can't make a glass of this stuff.
Right. So it's the tension, it's that surface tension. Right.
And it's a very thin layer. It's not very many, it's not very deep, but that forms on surfaces, and a lot of the surfaces in your cell are proteins. So mitochondrial proteins are the most abundant, but there can easily be 5,000 or 10,000 proteins in a cell.
Wow.
So there's lots of surfaces there. And we can't study the mitochondria specifically, so we don't know this. It's very likely that this also contributes to mitochondrial function. But what we do know for a fact in cell biology is when proteins fold, they get the energy from the water. Right. And so they have to fold in order to work, and the water is the source of that energy. Well, what it means is that ordered, easy water where the molecules are pressed together, it's very organized, can transfer that organized energy to the protein. So the protein starts as a chain of amino acids.
Yeah.
It can be thousands or it can be dozens. It varies. And peptides are just really small proteins.
Teeny tiny ones. Yes.
Yeah. And so that is a big long string. And how does it go to a very complex 3D shape? It has to fold, and there's all this bonding that holds it together. And so it has to take energy to do that. So it gets the energy to go from something very simple to a complex shape. Yeah. Meanwhile, the water loses the order in the water, the closely packed water molecules. That goes away because it's donated that organization to the protein.
So it's donating energy basically to the protein. It's
donating energy, and this is a transfer of entropy. So it's an issue of order to chaos is the type of energy that it is. That's so that was all known in cell biology. We didn't do any of that stuff. We just said, oh, wait a minute, we can mimic what the body does to create more of this essential ordered water in the cells, and then let the body do its thing because it knows what to do.
Love it. I love that. But although you haven't been able to measure mitochondria directly, you are able to measure things like VO2 max, like how well people utilize oxygen, like all of these things require proper mitochondrial function at the end of the day. So how do, like you've done quite a lot of studies with athletes, I believe, and physical performance. And that's where we're going to start to see also, like, I mean, I would imagine like the two populations where we can see big impact in obvious ways are your high performance athletes and then elderly people or people who are compromised in some ways. And I think you've done research in both areas. So do you want to talk a little bit about this whole idea of VO2 max and performance? Yeah,
sure. And also the high performance people, like brain, cognitive function is also high performance. But first of all, we have done mitochondrial testing.
You have?
We just haven't done enough of it. It looks very good. We haven't done enough of it to publish it and put it out there. This is a very expensive process to do that testing. But my point about the mitochondria was they don't fold. And
No,
so
right.
the cell biology doesn't know that side of it, but there are mitochondrial proteins. And
Absolutely.
definitely VO2 max indicates better energy production, which is mitochondrial function, and also respiratory exchange ratio. Same thing. You couldn't improve that without improving mitochondrial function. And so the respiratory exchange ratio was an improvement of 11% in one session. And VO2 max was 7.8% improvement in one session, which, according to the metabolic testing company, that never had seen anything
They had
like
never seen it. So explain to us what this looked like. So basically you had a high performance athlete come in. Is it a high performance?
These ones were not done on high performance. Actually, this was a bit of a range of people.
Okay, well, even better. So, because, not too many high performance athletes listening to this. So anybody off the street, they come in, they do, how long a session would they do on the NanoVi?
So they'd first do the metabolic testing. In this case, it was PNOE.
Yeah.
It's great. Yeah, it's a great system. So they do the metabolic testing, and then they could do a NanoVi session and then another metabolic test. Or they would do an exercising NanoVi and another test, because VO2 max is when you're doing maximum output while you're exercising. So you can do stationary or active tests metabolically.
Right.
So, yeah. So that's
PNOE. Yeah. So let's tell people a little bit what PNOE is. So that's PNOE. Bizarre name. Basically, you're wearing a mask over your mouth and nose, and it's measuring or controlling how much oxygen you're using.
It's measuring everything, like your breath and your exhalation and how much CO2 versus oxygen. And that's the key part for us, is when they show that you're utilizing 11% more oxygen. And so many people think the NanoVi device is an oxygen device. Well, we don't add any. We just make the cells use it better so they work better. You don't have to add it if they're working better.
Yeah. That's so interesting. So they become more efficient at oxygen utilization.
Yes. And so they're measuring all of this. And also, so everybody kind of knows, you get a lot more information from metabolic testing. It's very well used for athletes, of course, but also for weight management. And you look at the crossover point when your body shifts from burning fats to burning carbs.
Yeah.
And that also improves statistically significantly by over 5%, which shows that efficiency.
Does it make people better at burning fat for fuel? Or
it does, because because VO2 max you get a higher VO2 max when you've responded well to maximum exercise. Yeah, so it would. And VO2 max, for everybody, the American Heart Association, whatever, is considered the biggest indicator of lifespan. Yeah. Because that it's so important, and it's also probably the biggest indicator of biological age is VO2 max. So improving that is really good for you.
Yeah, no, I mean, VO2 max is a major measure. I think it's VO2 max and grip strength, right? Like those are the two big ones that people look at. And it's funny because the gym I'm working out at, I've gone back to recently, is it's a lifting gym. And one of the things we do is hang from bars with our full body weight, which I got to tell you, when you haven't done this for a while, it sucks.
I've got to try this. I have a tree in the yard that I could.
Yeah. Well, and then you start to notice, oh, this makes my hands hurt, so that grip strength, developing that grip strength is massive. But the VO2 max is that metric that if we lose VO2 max capacity with every passing year as we get older. And I think that decline starts, if you're not working on your VO2 max, it starts very early, like probably in your early 30s, right?
Well, that's when the cellular makeup starts to decline. It's actually at least a decade before most people notice it.
Yeah.
Right. So that's when you really kind of get behind on the repair side of the equation.
Yeah. So this is all ramping. This is about building resilience and ramping up repair. Now, have you done, I'm just out of curiosity, I'm thinking of places where people would really feel this. Have you done studies at altitude with people where you have to become more efficient with oxygen? Sorry?
So Katrine has this.
Katrine has.
Not a study, but the nurses in a center in Sedona, which is a higher elevation.
Yeah.
They can see the difference in blood work. It goes from brown to red, and they can measure it with a pulse oximeter.
Wow.
So if people, I'd love to do a study at an airport or something, find a flight coming in from LA.
Yeah, no kidding.
into Denver or something, and just because everybody, that's very visible and measurable, but we haven't studied it.
Okay.
And in healthy people, they're going to be fully saturated. Normally, it's only if they go to elevation that they, that it goes down. But we'll bounce them right back up, as well as much as concentrated oxygen does, and it holds longer too.
Well, and like you said before, it's if you can help the cell to become better at its oxygen carrying capacity, if you can help the cell do a better job, you can do with less. Right? So if you're at altitude, you'll be able to perform better without needing to dope your blood, for example, just to increase the number of red blood cells. Like, what if you could just improve the carrying capacity of the blood cells you have in circulation?
Yeah, and hemoglobin is a protein.
There you go.
And one other thing I'll mention when you say dope your blood is this is not doping. Even if you were to put extra saline in solution in your veins, that's considered doping. But and certainly breathing oxygen is. But what we do is not doping. It's normal air. It's normal water at normal pressures. And so for athletes, it's a big deal for certain athletes because you're not doping, but you're getting this massive benefit of things like less lactate when you exert yourself.
Yeah. So do you have, I'm sure you do, have athletes using NanoVi? We
do. We don't have as many as you might think because we're not very good at reaching them, I think.
Man, we're going to have to do something about that.
I know. Really, it's not really broken wide open, but we certainly have athletes in every major sport, and real advocates with it. Like Ben Greenfield is, I consider him a pretty
he's a pretty high performance guy for sure.
Yeah. And so there are people out there. It's just that we haven't taken off so that everybody's got one.
All right. Well, maybe we can do something about that. So what would be the benefit for people? Would they use it? I'm setting her up for the answer here, guys. Do we use it pre-workout or post-workout? What's the best time?
Okay. There's kind of three things.
Okay.
For performance, pre.
Okay.
And that measurement for an all-out exercise test, the difference between a placebo device and an active device on a crossover study, 17% less blood lactate when the NanoVi device was used. And that was done at a sports science center at a university. Totally independent of us. We didn't pay anything, nothing,
And what kind of, what exercise did they do? Was it like an all-out bike?
Treadmill on an incline. And an all-out exercise test is when the athlete keeps going until they fail, and they have a medical doctor there to stop it if the person's at risk. So they really push them.
So right before they keel over.
And see, you can stress athletes like that, and it's okay. You don't want to do that to old people. So that's where quite a few of our studies are actually on athletes because it's okay to stress them.
Right. And do you have any studies on, okay, so let's finish with the first question, then we'll go to the old people question. Okay. So pre-workout, you've seen in trained athletes, an increase of 17% for performance. When they did, was it like a 15 or 20 minute session prior to, or?
Well, it was, I was actually a 15-minute session prior, 17% less blood lactate.
Right.
So number one, for performance, use it ahead of time. Then number two is recovery. Always use it after. Anytime you want to recover, using it afterwards makes a big difference. And we also showed that in a study where your immune system, your repair kicked in. It was different measures, but between 10 and 17% more of that repair kicking in. So that was also against a placebo device and really significant. Mm-hmm. But there's a third. The third one is if you want hormesis, if you're trying to just kill it and then make your body suffer and up its game, then you need to delay 2 or 3 hours before you use the NanoVi. Because
after the workout.
Right. Otherwise, you're counteracting your goal of getting the hormesis.
Okay. I was going to ask that question actually, because we know we don't want to use antioxidants right after a workout because we blunt that hormetic stressor. And we kind of, you want that stress and inflammation around for a little while. And so it's 2 to 3 hours after the workout is when we want to use it for recovery.
Right. Something like that. And then you get the benefit of that. And then you get the benefit of also mopping it up and repairing it, which is a really good combination.
Okay. Because I've noticed I've been working out, like I said, I've gone back to heavy lifting and I typically cannot work out consecutive days. Like historically in my life, like when I did CrossFit, if I went consecutive days, I would fall apart like a cheap suit. Like it's just the way my body works. And interestingly, when you look at your genetics, some people recover faster from exercise genetically than others. And so I was one of those people. When I ended up going into my genetics, it was like, oh, what a surprise. I need more time to recover in between workouts. But I'm finding that since I've had the NanoVi in the house and I hop on probably a little too soon, I'm usually on there like an hour and a half after my workout, but I'm finding that, and it's kind of weird because I'm nervous, but I'm able to go more days in a row than I used to.
Yeah. It's a very noticeable difference for if people do the same routine or if they're high performance and they're really tuned in. It's a very noticeable difference for recovery after whatever exertion they did. And that includes the brain.
So, talk to us about that.
The brain, when you use your brain and really concentrate, it's like running a marathon. I mean, you're really burning a lot of oxygen. Therefore, you have oxidative damage. And guess where that is? Yeah. It's in your brain. And then it shows up as kind of feeling like either really tired or having brain fog or being slow. You just can't quite make the connections, all those things. You don't last as long where you used to be able to focus for 3 hours and now, you can't and so on. And that's brain endurance. And those things are, that's why Dave Asprey has it at 40 years of Zen. Where
you're doing all that work. Yeah,
he's pushing the brain and they just get much better outcomes when they use NanoVi with that CAP training where they're making it really hard on the brain. And then also Jim Hart noticed that at Biocybernaut where it's like, this is way more brain endurance. And when they would expect somebody to be down, they would actually be up if they used the NanoVi because they're pushing the brain so hard.
I did the Biocybernaut training last November or a while ago, and maybe they didn't have their NanoVi in yet because I can tell.
Yeah, they don't use it there because it doesn't fit into the rest of the protocol.
Well, I can tell you that if I ever go back there and do it again, I'm bringing my own NanoVi with me.
And
because I've got that funky carrying case and it's coming with me.
Okay, I have a little story about that.
Tell me.
Most of us train for high alpha. For people that don't know that, don't worry about it. It's a brain state that a lot of us train for. Neurofeedback normally is pushing alpha.
Yeah.
Well, Jim Hart has some of the highest alpha in the world.
Oh, yeah.
He is a record setter. So when he personally used NanoVi, he actually lowered his alpha. And he was like, well I don't like that.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, Jim, you don't understand. Your body is trying to get some of those resources for something else, like maybe your, organs or whatever.
Oh, interesting.
It's trying to keep you alive, and you're trying to stay out there on this leading edge,
That's so interesting.
And so that was so funny. And he just is like, no, it's got to be alpha. And
oh, that's so interesting. Well, it's interesting about that. And I can see him thinking that, going that with that thought process, right? Because as you said, for Jim, it's all about the alpha. Yeah. And yet what his body is saying is we have higher priorities than hitting higher alpha right now. Like we need to manage oxidative stress in your heart or your lungs or your joints or whatever the case may be.
And you don't necessarily have a biological use for that alpha.
No.
It's not necessarily more is better in some
Well,
of
it's
the
not a survival priority, right? And the body is going to prioritize survival over seeing angels, which I know is another big thing at BioCybernaut. I actually have an interview coming out with him later this year. And I mean, he's such an interesting guy, and he's phenomenal. But you know, he's got a very specific track he's moving on. But tell me a little bit about the other types of people. So we've talked a lot about athletes. Have you done any studies with elderly people at all, or?
We have the mitochondrial testing was everybody was over 65.
Okay.
And so, yes, we have. And that, what showed up is, I only talk about statistically significant results.
Yep. That works for me.
So I'm trying to remember clearly, but definitely improved sleep, improved sense of well-being, and improved mental clarity, I believe, all showed up. That was a month-long study.
Wow.
All older people, energy levels also showed up. But we need to do more to make it a bigger study. And that's where we're sitting right now, is to kind of get that going.
Yeah.
But then the other one is we just released a heart rate variability study, and it was skewed older. And I've been curious about slicing that out. It's so statistically significant. However, the young people didn't look any different than the old people for heart rate variability. So it wasn't divided out. Mm-hmm. But you could take that and say for people over, 55, which are not old people, by the way.
No.
But you could divide it out, but we haven't done that. And it's interesting how consistent heart rate variability is across age.
But because it's not, right? Like HRV typically drops as we age. So if what you were seeing is uniformity of HRV across the ages, is that what you were seeing? We're
seeing more consistent in the delta, the difference between before and after. So what they do is they normalize the people so they're at a stable HRV. It's not going to get any better at that point. And they test them. Then they did the 20-minute NanoVi session and then retest.
Okay.
And so they started at all different levels, but they consistently improved, and the improvement was 45%.
Wow.
Even the young guys, the old guys, whatever, it all averaged to 45%
improvement.
And it was significant for those statisticians out there at the 0.0001 level.
Wow.
So what that means is
it's important.
Everybody improved quite a lot.
It's important. And so beyond athletes, who typically uses NanoVi? And do you have any kind of shocking stories to share with us? Like, I mean, I'm sure you've got people like CEOs or all kinds of people across the scale. Are there any stories that stand out for you of someone who started using NanoVi and then you get a call or an email that says, hey?
I did get one call from a guy who very boldly told me about his ED.
Oh, you're kidding.
I was so proud of him. I thought, this is the coolest guy ever who will talk about erectile dysfunction, but he was really impressed with it. But again, it's not a panacea for ED or anything else. It's just that in his case, his body was able to use that resource to bring some things back online.
Well, ED is often related to blood vessel function.
Yeah.
So is it possible? I mean, I would think that if the endothelium of the blood vessel is being damaged by oxidative stress, if the body says we have damage, like the way that I see repair in the body, it's kind of a hierarchy, right? Like, what's the most important thing I need to fix for this person to survive?
Yeah.
Which means it's not necessarily going to be the thing that you want. Like if I have, discoloration on my arms from sun damage, as far as my body's concerned, it's like, yeah, whatever. Your skin is intact. It's doing what it needs to do. You don't like the way it looks. Too bad, so sad. Right?
Yeah.
But if it says, oh well, there's damage in the lining of the blood vessels, which is, or the blood vessels are getting stiff or whatever, it'll prioritize that type of repair if that's the highest priority. With ED, we often see it's ED actually, from what I've heard, can be a sign that there's cardiovascular problems down the pipe.
And maybe that combined with better oxygen utilization also is enough to help things spiral up a bit. Oh, I can't believe I said that. Spiral up.
It's all good.
But I have to tell you, my one favorite is we got a letter from the Pope, from Pope Francis, not the current Pope. And he had had surgery a couple years before he passed away. And at that point, a longevity doctor in Europe recommended NanoVi. And so he accepted it. And then he used it from that point on. And so we never market around that or anything, but he's our most famous user, way more famous than Tony Robbins even.
Who also uses it. So for the Pope, so he started using it. He would, and I mean, with respect, the Pope guys tend to be older.
Yes. Oh, and Pope Francis was senior.
Like he was senior. So he started using it after his surgery. And so when he came out to you, was it basically, I'm loving this because it's helped me to recover? Like,
oh, no. You get a very formal letter. I had it translated by ChatGPT from, Italian to English. And it's just a very formal short letter. Like they don't do any, it's very kind of controlled. And
there's not too much sharing. There's no oversharing. Yeah.
Right. And then, that's not ever going to come up. And then it's like at the end, they'll say, he says, and, please pray for me kind of thing, which is so beautiful. Mm-hmm. Because he puts himself, on the level of everybody else. Pray for each other versus that he's so much senior. That's really cool. But anyway, he's our most famous user.
Do you think he gifted it to the new Pope, maybe?
I don't know what's going on over there, but man, you're not going to get any information out of there.
No, that's interesting.
Yeah.
So let's review a little bit. So for people who work out, they would use it either pre-workout. Well, you could use it both, right? You could use it before your workout.
Absolutely.
Then after your workout, you might wait a couple of hours to get.
Only if you're going after that hormetic response. A lot of people, they just need to recover fast, get on with their day, feel good. So it's really only if you're kind of trying to trash yourself.
Okay. Well, I can see every other day trashing myself and every other day not trashing myself.
Yeah. Yep.
Just to build that extra capacity. And then for me, I will use it at night quite often. And I've noticed that, there's a couple of things I'm doing, but one of the things I've started over the last little while is NanoVi. And the summertime's an interesting time for me because I split my time between my city house and my country house. And I haven't been transporting my NanoVi to the country. And it's interesting that my HRV seems to be consistently higher when I come home to the city, which is counterintuitive. You would think my HRV would be higher when I'm out in nature.
Absolutely.
And yet I'm now noticing after like a month and a half, I come home and my HRV bumps up. I mean, as long as I'm not doing something stupid, but like eating too late or whatever the case may be. But I'm in an environment here where my body's under a lot more stress than it is out at my lake house. And yet my HRV seems to be consistently higher at home than it is at the cottage.
Mm-hmm. And HRV is a huge factor for sleep. And just a little bit on that, we do continuous heart monitoring with a chest strap.
Yeah.
And that shows that about minute 7 or 8, the stress index drops dramatically.
Oh, interesting.
And at about minute 13 or 14, the parasympathetic builds. So even if you just did 10 minutes before sleep, that could be really advantageous for sleep. Because when you drop out of stress mode, you're just teed up to have a good night's sleep.
I love it. Yeah. Well, I'm constantly throwing the cannula at my husband saying, do it, because he trains, he swims. Like he swims with the Masters Club, and he, unfortunately, the time that they swim is at 7:30 at night. So by the time he gets home, he is trashed. Like he's swum like 2 to 3 kilometers at a very high level. And so at that point, I'm like, forget the hormesis. Let's just manage the damage here.
Yeah, he should definitely use it.
Yeah, no, he does when I make him.
But also with the swimming for performance, lactate's going to be an issue for those guys.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. I should actually get him to do a session before he even goes to the pool.
And see if he's a rock star.
Yeah. Well, he's already a rock star, but I think he could surprise himself. That would be kind of. I'm going to do that tonight. Actually, he
might have really consistent information of what times are normally, split times, all these things.
Totally does.
And so that'd be interesting.
We'll do our little N of 1 on Mitchell B. All right. Yeah. So before bed. And then for people who aren't athletes, so before bed is a great time. I like to do it first thing in the morning. I like to start my day, even on the days when I don't work out, which isn't too many, but I like to just start my day with the NanoVi. What about, you mentioned mental energy earlier. What about like around 3:00 in the afternoon? If somebody's kind of hitting a wall, do you find, like, I would think that, sitting and doing a little breath work or meditation kind of plugged into your NanoVi might be a nice thing to do.
All those things at once are best, but if you're working at your desk, that's what I do. Is I have it beside me. I just put it on and I'm working while I'm using it. But the afternoon is a great idea because a little more oxygen utilization, a little more clarity.
Yeah. And what's nice about the NanoVi is it's more portable than it looks, because it's not a big thing. To me, the only thing that I worry about is the glass container for the water. Like I always worry about that coming off. So I take it off if I'm going to take it somewhere, but you can move it around your house quite easily. And
it has, for you to take it to the lake, it has a case where there's part of the mechanism that goes into the device would leak because it has to have air going through it. So there's another bottle there, and you just switch the glass. So the one with the lid has the water in it, and the other one is in the other holder, and off you go. So then you just switch them back and you're running at the cottage. No, 100%. Listen, I'm going to be bringing it to the cottage. This has been a very deliberate experiment, right? Like what happens when I'm here and what happens is there a difference? And so now that I'm going to start taking it with me, it's going to be a question of, does my HRV kind of equalize between the two? Now I'm wondering if it will be higher at the cottage once you normalize this, because it should be. Oh, yeah. Well, cottages are funny these days. Like the nice thing is we're only an hour and a half, an hour and 3/4 from Toronto. So we're pretty close. So we still have Wi-Fi. I can still see 5 different networks on my Wi-Fi. So the good news is we're in the forest and I can be barefoot with my feet on the ground and I can swim in the lake and the whole 9 yards, but we still have city at the cottage. Like it's not like someone who can head out to the mountains and like, I don't even know how far you would need to go these days to get away from the non-native EMFs and that kind of assault on the system. Plus, we've also had a lot of, like so many parts of the world these days, we've had a lot of issues with smoke. Yes. From wildfires. That's going to stress the body. And again, I would think that having access to a tool like a NanoVi to help to mitigate the damage from all that particulate matter. It's huge. I think they're 5 microns or something. They're so small and they're so damaging. They're showing that more and more. And it's a huge factor because it produces massive amounts of oxidative stress. Mm-hmm. And so if you are anywhere near fire, and you also notice the breathing. You can notice it in your breathing, which those are, all those chronic illnesses, we don't talk about them, but the NanoVi is very noticeable for the respiratory issues. Yeah, I was going to ask you actually, have you done any studies yet on people with respiratory issues? We don't study any diseases. Oh, you don't? Because we don't make medical claims. Anecdotally, have you heard anything through the grapevine? I've counted over 50 chronic illnesses that NanoVi is used for, where we've gotten reports back from doctors or patients about the benefit of it, but we can't talk
No
about
medical
chronic
claims.
diseases. Yeah. But every chronic diseases has oxidative stress implicated, if not,
Absolutely.
fairly much a cause.
Mm-hmm.
And like you mentioned about the misfolded proteins, but with neurodegenerative diseases, it's right in the heart of the neurodegeneration is misfolded proteins.
Yeah, 100%.
So there's real connections there. It's just that we don't have them studied at the level that would allow us to make medical claims, and that's maybe a $10 million level.
Yeah, no, that's. But I think that taking it back to the beginning of what we were talking about, because oxidative stress is really at the foundation of the damage that the body sustains day in, day out, and that damage really accumulates over time. Having something like a resource like the NanoVi available to the body to mitigate the damage from that oxygen, the reactive oxygen species from the oxidative stress. Mm-hmm. It's, I think, in many ways, in so many ways that we can't even count, is going to be the thing that's going to ultimately help us play a longer game.
I absolutely agree with that, and stay feeling better, because we can't, as you said, we can't avoid it at this point. Maybe we wouldn't need any help if everything was perfect, but it's not, and we're all stressed. Just by the physical environment or the emotional stress that people feel.
Do you think?
From culture.
from what's happening in the world these days? Yeah, I think we can all agree.
Sort of.
Okay, last couple of questions. Does NanoVi stack? We talked about meditation a minute ago. Obviously, it's going to stack with that. But are there other modalities, whether it's red light therapy or hyperbaric oxygen? Are there other modalities that you can think of where you would stack the NanoVi with it and see a really nice synergy there?
All of them, but my number one pick would be hyperbarics, because you're putting more oxygen in there, so you have more oxidation. And
right.
With hyperbarics, you're flooding the body with oxygen.
Mm-hmm.
But then you follow that with a NanoVi session where you're utilizing that oxygen better, mm-hmm. and you get it's a great complement. And we've had centers that get much better results by adding the NanoVi, just because it's helping the body metabolize it all better.
And so, are they doing it in sequence or at the same time?
Yeah. In sequence.
Yeah, because you don't want to do anything in the chamber. Time. Yeah, I don't think you want to bring anything into the chamber that involves electricity.
Right. And I know there's all kinds of chambers out there, but I think, after hyperbarics, you're going to be flooded with oxygen for up to an hour, say.
Yeah.
So if you use NanoVi during that time, you'll get an extra advantage of the oxygen that you're taking in.
Yeah.
But we also there's a really good case for cryotherapy, because you're initiating cold shock proteins. We help them work better. Same with, red light and PEMF. They'll stir things up. And then you want the whole system to work better. Same with nitric oxide, which is not a machine, but, a supplement form. So any of them, there's a logical case for why they help, because NanoVi is just so fundamental. It's just a better environment. So whatever they do is going to work better if it's a better environment in the cell.
For sure. I would add the infrared sauna to that, or any sauna really, doing NanoVi after that. Yeah. Okay, so where do you see NanoVi and related protein repair science going in the next 5 to 10 years? Do you have a vision for this?
Yes. My big goal, okay, so everybody understands this. The technology is not inexpensive, right?
It's an investment.
Tons of people own it, but that doesn't make it available to everybody. It only makes it available to people that can afford that. So my goal is more centers, gyms. You can just have a membership at the gym that includes NanoVi. Things like that. More centers where people are going anyway. So workplaces or gyms, and they access it. Many, many people can share one device, which makes it extremely inexpensive. It's not like a supplement, which is $90 a month or something,
100%.
any number of people can use it. So that's really my goal, is to make it more accessible, because there's no path to making it a lot cheaper at this point. And so then just leverage the fact that it can be shared and get it further out there that way. That's my biggest interest right now.
Yeah, I think, gyms, but even also you can imagine like a corporate office. Or if they have a gym, like in their gym, or even in retirement homes, I would think that if you could get it into like a retirement home, and that could be part of the care that people get, all they need is their own little cannula. They're off to the races.
It's perfect for that. And I'll tell you that you asked me for that story, that oh wow story. It was a woman who was trying to work and take care of her mother, and she was upstairs in the bathroom, and her mother came up behind her. And when she started, she hadn't even been walking really, let alone up the stairs. And this woman, So if you think of a retirement home, if they're ambulatory and working better, life is better for everybody.
Yeah. And for themselves, right? It would improve their quality of life.
Oh, yeah. And we need that because there's an aging population here. So I would love to see that. And it's an area we haven't really tapped, but it makes so much sense.
Yeah.
And
I love that. All right. So last one. If you could leave one message for listeners working to extend their vitality and thrive beyond standard aging paradigms, what would you want them to hear the most? What's that one message you want them to hear?
That your body has virtually unlimited capacity to repair itself.
Love it.
It is truly amazing. And never lose sight of that or lose hope with that, because that's what will, carry you through the rough patches. That's what I would say. But, we don't do anything. The body heals itself, and it's just designed for that.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Thank you. All right. So where do people go to find out more? Like we said a minute ago, this is like, to people in fashion, we would call this the investment piece, right?
Yes.
So this is one of these, if you think you're in that space where you would want to own your own, then this is one of those things where you're making an investment in your future. The cool thing is everybody in the house can use it as well. But where can people find out more? You do still have different price points and different models. So where do people go to find out more?
That the easiest thing is eng3.com. And actually we created a page for you. So
thank you.
eng3.com/Needham.
Yeah.
Because on that page, it's not publicly available to search engines. We could give you some of the data points about the studies.
Oh, I love it.
And so we'd love for you to go to that page. And then I say be sure to sign in, because then we can get you all the other information, and we never spam people. We just send out, study results and things.
I love it. Yeah.
So that page, and log in for all this information. And that includes pricing and everything else. But I'm happy to give people a range there, if that's helpful.
I think let's let people go find out learn more before we get, you can give people a price if you a range. I think the other thing that you've done for people on that page is, in the event that you are ready to get your own NanoVi, if you use that link, they get a free Pelican case, right?
Oh yeah. And that's an expensive, like a $400 case almost, because but it's really nice to have. And so if you go in through that link, you do get that automatically. So don't buy it separately. No, because that case, it's one of those cases, it looks like it could fall out of the back of your car and survive. I think it has. Has it? Yeah, definitely do that. And even if you just get registered through that little form on the page, then whenever you're ready, you would be registered as having that advantage. So that's nice to have. Love it. Thank you. Rowena, this has been amazing. Thank you so much for your time. Thank you for being here. So once again, guys, if you want to get access to some of the literature and some of the research, the data points that
we're not able to share on the podcast, then you can just go to ang3, the number 3.com/NIDDAM, NIDDAM. You're going to get lots of information there. You can sign up. I guess you have a newsletter where you also share the results from research that you've done and that you're doing. And then, do you have a presence on social media as well?
Absolutely. It's at Ang3 Corp.
Okay.
ENG3CORP. And one other little thing about that page is there's an animated video that explains how it works, because we cannot do it justice.
Yeah, you got to see it to believe it, 100%.
So that will also help.
Okay, great. Thank you so much, Rowena. This has been lovely. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Such a pleasure.